and welcome to this video on navigating heated, offensive, and tense moments in the classroom, presented by the Columbia University Center for Teaching and Learning. This video presents strategies to help you navigate heated, offensive, and tense, referred to as hot throughout the rest of this video, moments to ensure that you have a plan to support your students and that your classroom remains a respectful and inclusive learning environment for all. Throughout this video, you will be encouraged to reflect on your pedagogical practices and your teaching context as you think about your own approach to navigating hot moments. The following strategies are grouped by what you can do before these moments arise, when preparing for a new semester, during a hot moment as it occurs, and after a hot moment has occurred in class. Let's start with looking at strategies for before a hot moment arises. While there is no one strategy that can prevent hot moments from arising, there are several things that instructors can do on their own before a class begins or with their students early in the semester. Let's look at strategies for before the semester. Reflect on previous iterations of your course and, if applicable, how you responded to hot moments. When preparing for a new semester, consider previous iterations of the course or similar courses that you have taught and your experiences in those courses. Some questions to reflect on may include: what sparked hot moments in your course? For example, your own biases or assumptions, a particular course element, like a reading or an assignment, or events outside the classroom. And how have you navigated hot moments in the past? How did you respond, or not, in the moment? What worked well? What might you do differently? Taking the time to think about past experiences can help you better prepare for what lies ahead. Anticipate issues or topics that may lead to challenging conversations. Plan how you will prevent course topics and materials and bring in diverse perspectives. Whether your course addresses controversial topics or not, take a look at course elements, like the readings or assignments, and the extent to which diverse perspectives are presented. Some questions to reflect on might include: what course content has caused hot moments previously? What additional context can you provide for particular course topics or materials? What supplementary materials could offer a different perspective? Plan for how you might facilitate difficult conversations if they arise. While it's not possible to know exactly when and how a difficult conversation will arise, you can plan for how you might facilitate these conversations in your courses ahead of the semester. Additionally, by reflecting on your own biases and assumptions, as well as your own personal triggers and emotional response, you can be better prepared for challenging conversations. Some questions to reflect on might include: what are your biases, assumptions, or potential triggers? For example, particular topics or perspectives. How will you talk to students in advance of presenting a topic or engaging in a discussion on a sensitive topic to help prepare them for the conversation? What is your approach to creating space for difficult dialogues and inviting diverse perspectives while keeping the focus on the class learning goals? Be aware of the social climate and context. Classrooms can serve as microcosms for broader societal contexts. In this way, it is important to consider the current social climate and context that may impact you, your students, and your course. Some questions to reflect on might include: what events on and off campus might contribute to a hot moment? Even if the events are not related to your course, how will you address or acknowledge the current situation and what is on people's minds before refocusing on the intended learning of the course? How might you make space for difficult exchanges in your course? Now let's consider strategies for early in the semester. Build rapport with your students. Build a classroom culture of trust and respect from the beginning of the semester. Get to know your students early in the semester, whether through icebreakers, a survey, informal conversations before or after class, or during office hours. This will help you discover what they are bringing to the class, their questions, perspectives, concerns, etc., as well as keep lines of communication open. Foster open communication by encouraging students to connect with you during office hours and inviting students to give feedback on the course and their learning experiences. Some questions to consider include: how will you get to know your students? How will you welcome students to your classroom and communicate what they can expect of you? How will you keep communication lines open and solicit feedback from students throughout the course? Partner with your students to develop community agreements or class norms. Community agreements are an inclusive practice that offer the class a shared grounding and can be especially helpful to draw upon when a hot moment arises. Agreements serve to set clear expectations for behavior and interactions within the classroom and online, such as in the coursework's environment. Some examples of community agreements may include: listen actively and respectfully when others are speaking. Use I statements to express personal perspectives and experiences. Be open to new ideas and perspectives. Be aware of your own biases and assumptions. Acknowledge and learn from mistakes. We will work together to address conflicts directly and respectfully when they arise. Community agreements are most effective when co-constructed with your students early in the semester. By actively contributing, students will have a greater sense of agency and responsibility. Agreements can be revisited and revised as needed throughout the semester. Share support and resources with your students. Leverage your coursework site and syllabus to share available campus resources with your students. This might include counseling resources, academic supports, affinity groups through university life, and more. Doing so early in the semester will make students aware of the campus resources available to them, while also helping to normalize help-seeking behaviors early in the semester.
Now let's look at strategies for responding to a hot moment as it occurs. Responding to a hot moment as it arises can feel uncomfortable and daunting, yet it's important to maintain trust and rapport in the classroom. When a hot moment arises, it's okay to take a moment to collect your own thoughts and check your emotions before responding. Once you feel prepared, acknowledge the hot moment by saying something like, "I sense that this is a difficult topic for us to discuss," or, "I recognize that this is a complex and sensitive issue." Once you've acknowledged the hot moment, proceed with your students. Some strategies for doing this may include: revisit community agreements established at the start of the semester. Returning to community agreements during a hot exchange is a great way to remind students of the class's agreed-upon expectations. You might open a discussion about the agreements, asking students if the class is still following the agreed-upon and shared agreements, and if not, are the agreements still serving the class as a whole? Some discussion prompts include: what community agreements are we not meeting in this moment? How can we reframe our discussion so that we are meeting the agreements we set for ourselves at the start of the semester? Are these agreements still serving us? Are there areas for revision? Initiate a reflective pause. Sometimes the best thing instructors can do for their students and themselves is to initiate a reflective pause. A reflective pause is a deliberate break in a conversation, lecture, or activity that allows students to reflect on what was discussed or experienced. This is not meant to shut down a conversation, but rather presents an opportunity for the class to reflect on what has happened and consider productive pathways forward. Instructors might initiate the pause by saying something like, "I understand emotions are running high right now. It's okay to have strong feelings, but it's not okay to treat each other poorly. Let's all pause for a moment, take stock of how we're feeling, and think about how we move forward together." Some questions posed to students for reflection may include: what do you think is happening in this moment? What might have caused this particular discussion? A particular moment in the text, connection to external events in the classroom? How might the class continue forward in ways that are supportive of all students' learning? refocus and redirect the course material and the learning objectives. Sometimes a hot moment arises when class discussion moves away from the course material, the text being discussed, or goes off topic. While there can certainly be productive and fruitful discussions that come from this straying, it can also make it difficult to move past a hot moment, since there's no shared lens for the whole class. In these moments, pose questions that encourage students to support their comments with evidence from course materials. Saying something like, "Let's return to the class material so that we can all participate in this discussion. Could you point to a specific moment in the text that raised this idea, concept, conclusion, or perspective?" Pose guiding questions to encourage students to explore their response and understand ideas and perspectives different from their own. While it's important not to single out an individual when hot moments arise, since this can lead to that individual becoming defensive, shutting down, or further escalating, there can be valuable learning opportunities to encourage students to think critically about a particular comment or response. Some guiding questions might include, "There are many who may agree with that particular sentiment. Why do you think that is? What can we learn from this perspective? At the same time, there are many who might disagree. What might alternate perspectives look like?"
Now let's look at strategies for responding to hot moments after they have occurred. Sometimes a response during the encounter isn't possible for any number of reasons. In those instances, it is crucial that instructors respond after the hot moment has occurred to maintain trust and rapport with students. Some ways to follow up and respond after a hot moment has occurred include: accept your role and responsibility in a hot moment. It can certainly be challenging for instructors to admit when they were a bystander or contributed to a hot moment. Students look to their instructors to model practices and to intervene when hot moments arise. Listening to your students, accepting responsibility, and identifying action steps to move forward is essential for learning to continue and for the class to move forward. Leverage asynchronous spaces or the start of the next class for reflection. A timely response may be needed before the next class session. In this case, a communication from the instructor via coursework's announcements or an asynchronous discussion can be used to maintain communication. Alternatively, you may find it more helpful to open the next class meeting with a reflection. In both instances, encourage students to not only reflect on what happened, but to also consider ways that the class might proceed in a way that is supportive of all students' learning. Check in with students individually. While addressing a hot moment as a whole class provides impactful learning opportunities for all students, in some circumstances, it may be more effective to meet with students individually, whether through scheduled one-on-one meetings or by offering open office hours. These meetings can be a great opportunity to remind your students of the support resources available to them across campus. Keep in mind that students may feel nervous or uncomfortable about a one-on-one meeting, so being clear and transparent about the purpose and goals of the meeting can help. Share your reflections with students to model reflective and inquisitive practice. Sharing your own reflections with students can be uncomfortable, as it requires a level of vulnerability and openness. You might share that you were not anticipating particular responses or contributions, and explain how you might use the hot moment as a learning moment going forward. This is also an opportunity to model reflection and growth for and with your students. Reflect on the experience and what you learned to consider how you will handle similar situations in the future. Following a hot moment in your course, take time for individual reflection to embrace the learning opportunity and leverage those lessons for future courses. Some questions to consider might include: what sparked the particular hot moment? For example, course readings, an assignment, in-class discussion? How did you respond during the particular encounter? How did students respond, both to the hot moment itself, but also your response or intervention? What might you do differently in the future? Connect with resources and support available to you. Navigating a hot moment in your course does not have to be a solitary act. Connect with your colleagues to talk about your experiences and seek advice. Access professional development resources like workshops or webinars made available to you through the university. And remember that the CTL is here to help you with this and other teaching and learning needs. You can email us at ctlfaculty@columbia.edu to schedule your one-on-one consultation, or visit our website at ctl.columbia.edu to access more resources.